Imagine walking into a museum and being told, right here, right on this page, this is the Caliph Uthman's actual blood. And people whisper it with wow. Imams repeat it. Tour guides swear by it. But here's the truth. Someone made that up on purpose. It genuinely grieves my heart to say this, but from the early centuries of Islam, certain Islamic scholars, scribes, curates, and institutions have intentionally deceived their own followers about the origins of their Quranic manuscripts. Millions of Muslims have heard the same story. This manuscript still has the blood of Caliph Uthman on it. Uthman died in 656. It is very dramatic, I must admit, and it is very emotional. If you are hearing this as a Muslim, it's burst your faith up, right? And it is false. The truth is this. Someone intentionally created those legends. Someone intentionally edited inscriptions. Someone intentionally applied fake stains. And millions of Muslims were intentionally misled by early Muslims. So, let's expose one of the most successful manuscripts deception in Islamic history.
Rami Hussein Halase, there's a tradition that the famous Quran manuscript that you analyze in depth in your scholarship, called the Topkapi manuscript, it actually has the blood of the third caliph that can still be seen in the manuscript. Because he was murdered while reading from, this is Uthman, he was murdered from reading this very manuscript. What do you make of this story, and was it on your mind as you were studying the manuscript?
Absolutely, that's absolutely right, and that was one of the reasons why I started studying this manuscript, is the fact that there's a tradition that when people came into Uthman and they killed him, first they cut his hand, and some of the blood from his hand fell on verse in chapter number 2, verse 137, فَسَيَكْفِيكُمُ اللَّهُ. And people say that you can see those bloodstains on this particular manuscript on page 21 in the manuscript. So that was actually the reason why I started studying this manuscript, and it's kind of I fell in love with it. And the rest is history from there.
Yeah, so it has this dramatic kind of origin story to this manuscript.
Absolutely.
This is how deep the myth goes. Even researchers and academic voices who studied those manuscripts sometimes repeat the legend. They are repeating not because they are trying to be malicious, but because the story has been circulating for centuries. The Topkapi manuscripts has the blood of Caliph Uthman on it. That's how powerful this myth is. It's been treated as fact for over 1,000 years. Not because there is evidence to prove it, but because the tradition intentionally built it, protected it, and passed it along. And millions of Muslims trusted it. So before I let Quranic experts to expose this bloody lie, let me just summarize for you, okay? There are 3 different Quranic manuscripts. The Tashkent manuscripts, the Topkapi manuscripts, and the Istanbul TM 457 manuscripts. All 3 manuscripts were presented to Muslims with the same message, as well as to non-Muslims. This is the Quran of Uthman. This contains Uthman's blood, and this is the original. 3 manuscripts, 3 different places, 3 different centuries, and 3 cases of intentional fabrication, fake stains, forged inscriptions, and invented stories. If this were an accident, it wouldn't happen 3 times. This is a pattern of intentional deception. As a non-Muslim, I am not surprised by it. Pattern of intentional deception by Muslims for Muslims as well as for non-Muslims. The Tashkent manuscripts, the very manuscripts we heard from Muslims that these manuscripts contains the blood of Uthman on it. Therefore, this is Uthman's manuscripts, okay? This is Uthman's copy of the Quran. So Dr. Sellart, one of the Quran manuscripts experts, looked into this red stain. Her findings are devastating. The stains form a repeating pattern The marks line up perfectly on both pages, spread exactly in pairs following the inner part, and they were edited intentionally. She quotes the 19th century analyst Shebunian, deliberate forgery. So think about it. Not a mistake, not a rumor, not misidentification. Deliberate, intentional forgery. These manuscripts is dated 8th to 9th century. Think about it, okay? Uthman died in 656. For Uthman's blood to end up in these manuscripts, Uthman must be still bleeding in hell, and somehow he was able to get his blood access into the planet Earth and then put on the Quran. Someone might be thinking, yeah, that's another miracle of Islam. So think about it. Deliberate, intentional forgery. Whoever did this wanted Muslims to believe they were staring at the blood of Uthman every time when they look at the Tashkent manuscripts. You know what? And Muslims trusted them. That is the most painful part. And here's the thing, you know better than me. When your manuscripts needs fake blood to look authentic, you don't have the authenticity. You know that, and I know that. So here's another manuscripts, TM 457. This bold inscription states, Uthman ibn Affan wrote this in the year of 30 Hijrah. So, this manuscript by itself is dated 8th century. Again, for Uthman to write that manuscript, Uthman might be still writing things down in hell, and somehow putting that on the planet Earth. Well, as I said, we talk about a religion who's got like all these magical miracles in them. So manuscript is dated by itself 8th century. Uthman is dead in 7th century, mid 7th century. And there is this inscription in the manuscript says, Uthman wrote this year 30 Hijrah. Muslim experts like Altı Kulaç and Salah al-Din al-Manajid looked into it. And here what they conclude. The inscription is not original. This was edited later, long after the manuscript was written. The script belongs to the 8th century, and this manuscript, by the way, contradicts Uthman's supposed standard text. This was not an innocent error. Someone at some point in history intentionally wrote fake attribution to convince Muslims that this was Uthman's personal copy of the Quran. And you know better than me. The real manuscripts don't need fake orthography. You know that much, much better than me. And when you follow careful manuscript work of Dr. Rami Hussein Halasha, the pictures becomes more unmistakable. He's done his work on the Topkapı manuscripts. And as you look at his work, you will see those features aren't random accidents. They reflect later hands editing later elements. The kind of additions that helps to fill the story of Uthman. In his analysis, Dr. Rami Hussein Halasa shows red stains could be damage caused by humidity or other environmental factors, versus Dr. Sellard on the Tashkent red stains. She kind of talks about, yeah, they look like glue. Some were possibly intentional additions for authenticity. Think about it. These manuscripts are dated 8th century. So it to contain Uthman's blood. While Uthman is reading and then he gets killed and then blood from his finger goes to the surah too. For that to happen, Uthman's blood must be still actively bleeding. His finger still must be actively bleeding while he's in hell. And again, almost a century later, his blood is just entering the planet Earth from hell and then just dropping on Surah 2. It is impossible. Uthman died 7th century, manuscripts itself from 8th century. A myth build a story to make them seem divine, ancient, and holy. Dr. Rami Hussein Halasha states, people may have wrongly identified the stains as Uthman's blood. And also he states, possibly intentional additions for authenticity. Let me translate that for those of us who don't speak academic language. Someone wanted those manuscripts to look like relics, so they doctored them. Islamic tradition didn't preserve Uthman's Quran. It manufactured an illusion of preservation. So here's the thing, Now, I am gently forced to ask the question that every Muslims deserve an honest answer to. Question number 1. If Islam truly preserved the Quran perfectly, why did early Islamic curates have to create fake Uthman's manuscripts? Question number 2. If Uthman's real codex was existed, why did someone needed to glue on blood stains in a symmetrical patterns? Question number 3. If you have the original, why forge the label Uthman wrote this? This isn't accident. This isn't confusion. This is intentional religious deception, repeated for over 1,000 years. I shouldn't be surprised. I shouldn't be surprised. This is intentional religious deceptions. The manuscripts don't preserve Uthman. They preserve the story that Muslims were told about Uthman. And when the story needs a fake blood to survive, it is not the manuscripts that is bleeding. It is the credibility of the tradition itself. So, Islam is bleeding. Islamic tradition is bleeding.